You can now call in your questions to the Foreplay question voicemail. Dial 833-MY-4PLAY. That's 833-MY-4-PLAY. Or 833-694-7529. And leave your question, and we'll use the questions for our mailbag episodes.
Hello again, and welcome to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. I'm your host, certified sex therapist Laurie Watson, author of Wanting Sex Again, and blogger at Psychology Today and WebMD. And I have with me Dr. Adam Matthews, my co-host, who's a couples therapist, psychotherapist, and president of NCAMFT. Foreplay is dedicated to helping couples keep it hot. Each episode, we cover an aspect of sex that impacts your sex life and something that you can relate to. So if you find our discussions helpful, please give us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. We would love it if you would tell a friend about us. You can find us also on the web at foreplayrst.com. And if you have a comment or a topic that you'd like us to talk about, we'd love to hear from you. Please send them to us at info@foreplayrst.com. Thanks for listening. Now on to today's topic. Here I am, watching the timer. Adam sets the timer for me, and I watch it count down, and then I just kept watching it count down. So hello from Foreplay. Here we are.
That's quite an auspicious beginning. Beginning.
Silence.
But I kind of like it. Like it. Here I am.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Okay,
once again,
we've got a mailbag.
We're going to do mailbag. Yeah.
Yay. So, okay, we've got this great write-in. An email, and thank you for your emails and your questions. And you know what we're going to do? So we are developing a voicemail so that you can call in. It's going to be limited, like a minute and a half or something, for you to call in and tell us your questions. Obviously, if you call in and tell us your questions, that is giving us permission to use it on the air. But we thought that would be really neat to hear it in people's voices and to hear the intonation of, the difficulties and what they're saying. And anyway, we thank you so much, and we do get a ton of mail, and we're grateful. Nothing, I think, encourages me more than getting a letter from somebody. It's really great.
It's always encouraging, and if you can still email while we're getting the voicemail up and running, you can still email at info@foreplayrst.com.
Yeah.
If you got your questions, and we love hearing from listeners, and it really just keeps us going, I think.
Exactly. So this letter says, I found Foreplay RST recently when my boyfriend and I were discussing if we should see a sex therapist. I'm really enjoying it so far and hope that listening to it with him will help us get down the right path on improving our sex life. I'd love it, though, if you guys did an episode on sexual issues in younger people. I'm in my mid-20s, not married, no kids, so hearing lots of advice centered around married couples making time away from kids, postmenopausal women, etc., can make me feel like I have no excuse for experiencing sexual problems. An episode talking about how common sexual problems are in young adults would help normalize it and make me feel less alone. Thanks. Oh,
yeah. Mid-20s?
Mid-20s.
I don't know if I can remember my mid-20s.
It's too much coffee. It's like decaying your brain.
It probably is. I'm trying to get in that mid-20s. That, feels young to me now.
Yeah.
But I know at the time it probably felt a little that in-between space of being an adult but not quite being fully established and all that kind of stuff.
But
do you remember?
Actually, the studies, Adam, show that couples, regardless of age, this is what's surprising, regardless of age, couples who have been together in a committed relationship for 2 years, 1/3 of those couples are sexless.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It really – I'm so glad you wrote this because it helps us distinguish between age-related issues and stage-related issues that impact our sexuality and something that is purely, between us and our partner.
Yeah.
But really, the pursuer-distancer issue starts to complicate sex right away. I would say that young people, a lot of the things I hear and that they come in for are really relationship problems that impact the sexual life. Also, sexually, anorgasmia, which means usually she can't have an orgasm or doesn't have an orgasm regularly. Maybe he has premature ejaculation. The sense of, if they're living together, she doesn't really say that. But, once couples live together, there's sort of this real claustrophobic closing in of space.
Yeah.
Maybe they're sharing money, maybe they're sharing household responsibilities, bills, and literal space.
Yeah.
And that impacts the way we feel sexually. I mean, I think, too, like in your 20s, I hate to tell you, but you don't know so much about sex,
Inexperienced.
I mean, it seems like, I think looking back, people in their 40s or their 60s or whatever think, oh my gosh, sex was so easy and so great back then and it was so easy. No,
it doesn't start off that way. And that goes back to the expectations that you have about what the relationship is supposed to be like, right? And I think that, I think it is implied here that they're living together. And I don't think that kind of stage of life where you are shifting your relationship in such a way that it's not as much of a purely dating relationship anymore, where it is more of a coupleship.
Yes.
Right? That not enough is given to that transition and the importance of how you navigate that transition really well,
right.
Because that can lead to issues that come up, those relational issues that come up very easily, right? I mean, they just creep in, and you may not even notice that they're there for a while.
Right. And I think more than anything else in your youth, sexual desire is impacted by the relational issues.
Right.
I would say one caveat on that, and that's that young women taking birth control pills often have low libido.
Yeah.
And that's because the estrogen in it binds with their natural testosterone, which is the governing hormone for desire in both genders, as we have talked about. And so that binding up basically makes there less what they consider bioavailable testosterone. So her libido, she doesn't have as much testosterone, and even what they measure is not available to her to create sexual desire. So, a lot of times people say, okay, we're together, this is great, no more condoms, let's get you on the pill, and they have a birth control issue that suddenly her desire tanks. And it's something that doesn't always happen right at the beginning. It can happen over time. So I've had women say, well, I was on birth control since I was 18, and now at 25, suddenly I have low libido. And there is like a cumulative effect.
Right.
It can happen. And then tip it off with relational issues, maybe a bit of sexual knowledge issues, things that they don't understand. Right. I mean, there can be other tipping points here that impact it, but oftentimes a young woman might end up with low libido.
Yeah. I also think that you mentioned birth control, but I think younger generation now is probably more open in the past to medication in general, and specifically mental health medication. And so I think there's a high likelihood that they could be treating some kind of depression or anxiety.
With an SSRI.
Yes, which is going to also impact their sexual relationship as well. And so I think those two areas, if it's going to be physical, I think you could point to medications that they are taking and making sure that there's no sexual side effects there.
Most of the time, the good news with young bodies is that you don't have sort of chronic issues that are going to impact your sexual functioning.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you don't have sexual dysfunction, and it doesn't mean that sex is so great all the time.
Right.
I mean, there are lots of issues. You are definitely not alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I see young women every day in my practice in their 20s struggling with sexual problems, and young couples, who come in and have sexual dysfunction or enough relational issues that it's impacting their sex life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the good thing about being young is that you're still sort of pliable and emotionally pliable. I mean, just in terms of being able to change and grow and set good patterns in place. I mean, I think premarital counseling is essential, and not just with the guy at the church, or the priest, the pastor, who maybe isn't an expert in marital therapy, but does that as part of
Yeah, and I think that stage of life, what you're talking about being pliable, is also one of the things that can creep up as issues in their relationship, because you're still figuring yourself out. You're still finding out who you want to be as an adult, who you want to be as a person in a relationship, and that hasn't been set yet. Right. And so that has your kind of what I call your core values for a relationship have not been determined. And most of the time you probably have not talked about them. You just kind of fallen into what your you haven't talked about what your expectations are in a relationship, what you want your relationship to be about, what you value in relationship, what's important to you, all of that stuff that kind of can get in the way, can build barriers in between you if you haven't discussed it and gone into it with kind of your eyes wide open. And in part, in your mid-20s, you are still figuring a lot of that out. Hasn't been said.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, exactly. You're still figuring yourself out about what's important and how to find your voice. Yeah. When do I initiate something that might be conflictual in this relationship? When do I say, this is what I want, what do you want? Relationships are really tricky business. Mm-hmm. It's difficult, and sex is part of that. It's not just a standalone. It's not something. It's not just a behavior. It's wrapped into the very fabric of our connection with a person.
Yeah. I think, too, when she talks about wanting to feel less alone, wanting it to feel normal, there is an expectation that your relationship in the beginning is going to be everything that you ever thought it was going to be.
Honeymoon.
And I think what I hear from a lot of couples that are younger, that are in their 20s and they're just starting out, like they are surprised at how difficult it is in the beginning. And for some reason that they that logically, right? I think there's enough information out there that maybe now people have an awareness that we could say relationships are work, and they'll go, oh yeah, we know that. Mm-hmm. But they don't quite realize how much work it is, and so they're still surprised when they get into it and it's difficult, especially in the sexual relationship, right?
Right, exactly. Well, let's come back and talk specifically about some of the issues that she might be facing. We're just going to make a guess and just talk a little bit about things that you might talk with your partner about. Give you some ideas for conversation starters. This is Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy with your sex therapist, Laurie Watson, and couples therapist, Dr. Adam Matthews. Thank you so much to all our new Patreon supporters. We are so grateful to Craig and Nathaniel and Kristen and Steve and Rachel and Dylan and Brian and Vicky and Clarita and Michelle. You guys, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. It's really helping us meet our weekly expenses. And we just want you to know we're so grateful. We're going to get out our products to you. Thanks so much. And anybody else considering, if our work touches you and our work helps you, we would be so grateful for your support. Just go to our website, which is now new, foreplayrst.com. And there you can find a way to support us, and you can see our episodes and our blogs. And thank you so much, guys.
Wanting sex again. How to rediscover desire and heal a sexless marriage by certified sex therapist Laurie Watson.
Each chapter is designed to fix one of the problems that cause low libido, from early marriage through the childbearing years, even all the way through menopause. I've also had men read it and tell me that for them it was the most hopeful thing they read about resolving sexual problems.
Look for Wanting Sex Again on Amazon.com. You can also talk to Laurie Watson for therapy in person or via Skype.
I offer couples counseling and sex therapy, and I think about both aspects of the relationship, emotional intimacy and sexual technique, and that combination together helps marriages be happy.
Improve your sex and improve your relationship with Awakening Center for Couples and Intimacy. Find out more at awakenloveandsex.com. Awaken what's possible.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Matthews, and I want to welcome you to Matthews Counseling. At Matthews Counseling, we believe it is our job to come alongside you in whatever difficult challenges of life you are in and help you rediscover hope and to find the strength that you have to face those challenges. We believe in people, specifically that no two people are alike and therefore they need solutions that are unique to them. We strive to create a safe and comfortable place for you to explore who you want to be and identify the obstacles standing in your way. Oftentimes, the first step toward finding help is the hardest, but it can also be the bravest. At MatthewsCounseling.net, we strive to help make the first step easy. There you will find our blog with some great resources from our therapist. You'll also find a link to our client portal where you can schedule directly with our therapist at your convenience. We offer free 30-minute consultations either in person or over the phone, so the first step is at no cost to you. Give us a call at 919-587-8018, or again, find us online at matthewscounseling.net. We look forward to working with you.
We're back with Sex in the 20s. Oh, if only I could go back to my 20s and with everything I know now. That would be so fun.
No, I don't want to go back. You want to go back to your 20s? I don't
Just
want to go back to
if
my
I
20s.
could bring the self I am now back to the 20s, that might be cool to enjoy that young body. But I'm not saying it's easy.
Right.
I think the mid-20s are difficult. Absolutely. There's
Yeah. They're
you know,
poor. They're poor.
They're much poorer, and I think especially if you're unpartnered, right? It's like, or even if you're partnered and you don't know that this is your life partner, you know, I mean, there's difficulties as you determine both the person who you want to be with and the purpose, like what you want to do.
I just want my joints from my 20s. I want them to come on up.
Especially
My
right
knee-
now,
my
right?
knee
You're
joints.
having joint problems.
I'm
Your
having knee problems. I'm having knee problems, which is
The old
frustrating.
thing.
I know, right?
Gosh, I
Right.
know.
I just want that. I just want
But
my ligaments from my 20s.
You want your ligaments.
Like,
Did you abuse your ligaments in your 20s?
yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, skiing,
all
soccer.
kinds of. No, I'm not a soccer guy, but physical stuff that was just probably strained them way too hard. But
Yeah, okay.
also tore them.
Oh,
So some of the
ow.
ligaments.
Bad. Okay. So I want to talk about the 20s and what might be going on with you. I mean, I think the first thing that occurs to me is anorgasmia, which is she's not having an orgasm or not having one often enough. If there's no big bang, there's no big deal.
Right.
You know, you're not going to want to have sex unless you have regular orgasms. It's just part of the way it is. And that doesn't mean that a woman can't sometimes enjoy sexual intercourse or a sexual play, you know, without or sexual play, not asexual play. I guess there is such a thing as that. But, you know, enjoy a sexual time, not having an orgasm, and be okay with that. Because some women do report that.
Yeah.
Men, that seems incomprehensible.
How is she going to go about figuring that out if she
is having an orgasm or not? So most women know.
Okay.
You know, they know that, you know, wow, I don't have this explosive fireworks feeling that my partner seems to feel. There's something wrong. You know, and if you kind of have to ask, I don't know if I'm having an orgasm, you're probably not. Because once you have one, you know you had one. So that's the good news. The other thing is sometimes women have orgasms they can by themselves, but they can't translate that to partner sex. And oftentimes, I mean, with the advent of porn and what it shows that, you know, really her pleasure is all about intercourse, which is the big fat lie because her pleasure is really, you know, centered in her clitoris. And men don't know that. And women might know that, but they have trouble telling their partner that, and they often think they're broken. They think, you know, something's wrong with me. And I had a young woman come in and say, sex hurts, and she was given some medication by her doctor and sent to me. She was 18 years old. And I said, what do you mean sex hurts? And I said, tell me exactly what happens. She's like, well, my boyfriend comes home, you know, he lays me down in the bed and he puts it in and there we go. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, sex hurts. You know, you're dry, you're not ready, you're not aroused. Yes, you know, you're not having enough foreplay for it to be pleasurable. And I think that young women need to know that unlike the movies and unlike porn and unlike potentially their partner's expectation, even for them, orgasm can easily take 45 minutes, including lots and lots of foreplay and clitoral touching. Maybe, you know, they're really at the crest and then sexual intercourse pushes them over, but still 85% of women orgasm through clitoral touch. And, you know, she may not know that. She may feel I'm somehow or another asking for something too much. And I think one of the difficulties in your 20s is asserting yourself and saying, hey, this is how I like it. This is what I need to make me happy. You know, go ahead and do that. I just think it's important, and this is part of the development. This is why we say women come into their own at 35. It has nothing to do with physiological maturity. Actually, in your 20s, you are ripe with hormones, and you have the best chance of having sort of the best experience, but oftentimes it's the development of the self that needs to happen. So I just encourage you, girlfriend, get out there, tell him what you really, really like, you know, how you like to be touched. If you know how to do it yourself, then show him. I mean, try to, you know, hopefully the relationship is safe enough that you can do that and feel really comfortable doing that. That might be a good thing. I think the other thing is premature ejaculation. So again, since women don't have orgasms with sexual intercourse, it might not be that big a deal. But men who have premature ejaculation, young men, often feel really ashamed of this, and they start to withdraw. It's that shame cycle that we talk about. Shame stops connection, and oftentimes they're feeling so bad about it that they just get out of bed. Oh, well, I failed. It was too quick. It was, you're not going to get any. And it's like, well, she's really not going to get there if you get out of bed. Right. I think what he would need to say is, again, you're so sexy. I came so fast, and we can work on that, but I want you to have pleasure too, and keep going and keep the touching going and the loving going. And, this is something so easily fixed. It's truly easily a 6-month fix. And that doesn't even mean you have to come to therapy every week. That might be 6 sessions, and then you're sent home with homework to cure this. But that's it. And if he has ED, because a lot of young men have ED, and really oftentimes it comes to they're draining their sexual energy by themselves in pornography or something like that. And she misinterprets and says, wow, he's just not that attracted to me. I'm young. I'm in my 20s. What the heck is going on? That's, a problem that needs to be talked about. Like, whoa, what's going on for you? And even if he says, no, it's not you, it's me, then they might want to explore, okay, how are you relieving yourself over here and not bringing it to the bedroom? Yeah. So they need to have some really explicit talks about bedroom talk. As I think about it, it seems so simple, but it's the who, what, when, why, and where of sexual decisions that needs to be made at this stage. Like, who initiates? We had a caller in or a writer in who said, my partner really wants me to initiate physically. He wants me to start touching him in the living room, in the kitchen, wherever, and I just can't do it. I get the hives when I think about doing that. And this is something like, how our partner likes initiation to start is a conversation. What time of day? I'm a morning person. He's a night person. Oh, my gosh. Well, it happens that there's noon times. And if there isn't a noon time during the week, there is on the weekend. And why should that person initiate? Is it gender-based? The man should always initiate. But I think men really, really want to feel that wanted, desired experience. So maybe they need to talk about that, or what they're going to do in bed. How do longtime lovers signal each other? This is what this event is about. Because there's a shorthand over time. And you get good at knowing that. But in the beginning, there's a lot of fits and starts. It's like, oh, I expected this and I got that. And, we don't know how to talk about that. We don't know how to signal each other. So, having sex early on is problematic. It's a lot of work before things smooth out.
Even early in the relationship.
Yeah, early in the relationship, there's lots of problems. I think the desire discrepancy between a young male in his 20s and a young woman in her females could be huge. I mean, he literally could want sex every single day, and she's like, okay, twice a week is good, once a week better. That's what I'm hungry for. So how do they manage different hungers? I think just as a quick tip, certainly it might be okay to say, hey, let's have a quickie, especially if she's lubricated and she's okay with that. And he can understand that this is an offer of love, but it's not a night that she's hungry. And he shouldn't put further pressure on her to be hungry when he's hungry, because physiologically she's not. But that they make sure that they have one time during the week where she is feeling hungry, and they do make a big deal about it and, get her to orgasm and take the time that it needs. That could be one way to manage a desire discrepancy. And I think just last thing is what I harp on is really it's all about the power struggle. That, we find people who are our opposite, right? Pursuers find and get attracted to distancers. And I think that if you're with a pursuing partner, a sexual pursuing partner, and maybe she's an emotional pursuer, right? They're often crisscrossed. So she wants more time, touch, feelings, talking, and he may want more sex because that's how he feels safe. And he opens up after sex, and she needs to feel open before she wants to have sex. And so they need to resolve that.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say include in that is that she mentions that they were discussing whether they should see a therapist or not. Never a bad thing. It's not going to be harmful to go see a therapist. So if they think that there's something that is worth pursuing in that, then I think we both would recommend go check it out.
Absolutely.
Do a consultation with the therapist and see if it's something that they would recommend getting treatment for.
And they can find sex therapists and marriage counselors easily, couples counselors. You don't have to be married to go see a couples counselor. Absolutely nobody's going to ask that of you. But you can find it asect.org. It's AASECT.org is this a national sex therapy group. They can have totally different values than Adam and I, but you can check that out by conversation and looking at their website. Yep. And also marriage therapy, American Association of Marriage Family Therapists, right?
Yeah, you can look at aamft.com, or you can also just go to Psychology Today as well.
Psychology Today, that's a great,
resource.
Smart place to look. Okay, thanks for listening. This is Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy with your sex therapist, Laurie Watson, and couples therapist, Dr. Adam Matthews.
Remember, you can now call in your questions to the Foreplay question voicemail. Dial 833-MY4-PLAY. Leave your question, and we'll use the questions for our mailbag episodes.
Hey, help us stay on top here at Foreplay. We'd love it if you would subscribe and share it with your friends. And please take 1 sec and rate and review us. Thanks so much.
All content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as a substitute for therapy by a licensed clinician or as medical advice from a doctor.